Gaming can be an expensive hobby. Think of all the money that costs to buy a new console, full-price games, a powerful gaming PC, not even to mention accessories like monitors, keyboards and new controllers. But among the chaos, there are multiple ways to save up and to play video games in a more affordable manner. So, as suggested by a friend of mine, I wanted to discuss budget gaming, how to play video games spending as little as possible. In the first half of the video, I will address ways to play video games that are fully free of charge, while in the second half I'll discuss console choice, sales, subscriptions and promotions. So, without further premises, here's how to save up while playing video games. Roll the intro. The first and perhaps most well-known way to play video games fully for free is to, well, play free-to-play games. In the past 10+ years, it has become ever so more common for some titles, especially multiplayer games, to become free-to-play. Games like Rocket League, Fortnite, Overwatch 2 all offer players a chance to play online with friends, free of charge. Now, as you may guess, developers do not run a charity, and the reason why these games are free to play is because they offer players the possibility to purchase items within the game, often cosmetics such as skins and a digital wardrobe. I made clear in a past video of mine that I'm not the biggest fan of this model, but I do consider the fact that such a model allows millions of players to play games without the need to purchase them. In a game like Fall Guys, you could buy hats and suits for your little bin, but doing so will have absolutely no effect on the gameplay whatsoever. This means that you can play Fall Guys today on all current platforms without spending a penny, without even the need to put your payment details, and without being at a disadvantage against other players. But if multiplayer games are not your cup of tea, there are single-player titles like Genshin Impact that are also free to play. I have not played the game myself, but my good friend Ninhydro plays it and told me he enjoyed the full length of the game without the need to resort to the game's gacha mechanics. Again, free-to-play games do want to make a profit, so the gaming experience without purchases may be hampered, but it is still valid nonetheless. What you may not be aware of, however, is that there are games 100% free that have no monetization whatsoever. This is a small niche of games that often are small in size, but are valid games nonetheless that allow you to play a full-on experience with no strings attached. A game like Dr. Langeskov, The Tiger and The Terribly Cursed Emerald, for instance, would fit this list of games. This title is a short narrative adventure made by the same devs of the Stanley Parable. It is a 30 or so minute experience that is brief, charming and at the low price of nothing. Games like Street of Kamurocho and Doki Doki Literature Club are also single player games out there that do not ask for a dime. In addition to these titles, most fun games are also given out for free. Games like Pokemon Bushido and Pokemon Phoenix Rising, two Pokemon fun games that I adored and reviewed in my channel, are downloadable today for free. And the same goes for mods like Fallout London for Fallout 4 and the Kaiserreich for Hearts of Iron 4, DLC side content available for everyone. True, mods do need the base game to run, but they still increase the playtime exponentially without the need for an additional purchase, optimizing the base game's price. And speaking of purchases, did you know that the Epic Games Store, Steam and GOG give out games for free from time to time? I'm shocked by the number of people who are not aware of this, but these free platforms on the PC just straight up give full price games for free for a limited amount of time. On the Epic Games Store specifically, there are always 2 to 3 games given out for free every week that require 2 clicks to obtain. And while true, most titles given for free are fairly obscure mediocre titles, in the 3 years or so that I have been collecting games, I found some gems, like GTA 5, The Outer Worlds, Death Stranding, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Borderlands 3, City Skylines, and some titles that I already owned, like Watch Dogs 2, the first Fallout, and Civilization 6, all titles of high caliber. Even smaller titles like Inside, Night in the Woods, and Pikuniku are still solid games that are definitely worth playing, 100% recommended by me, especially since they were given out for free. Steam does not have that much of a generous policy as Epic, but I still got games like Killer is Dead and Sniper Elite V2 out of the blue, and I'm surely not complaining. Humble Bundle also gives very rarely games for free, like Stealthing 2, a game that I got something like 10 years ago without making any purchase. Point being that if you look around enough and keep a close eye on these promotions, you can end up with a healthy library of games to play without sinking in hundreds of euros. Just as a pro tip, I found out that there is a subreddit called r3gamestuff that updates you when these platforms give out free games. As you can imagine, this comes quite in handy. And speaking of handy, video game demos are quite useful to understand if you may enjoy a game, both upcoming or already released, these demos being always free to download. Sure, some demos are brief, but you would be surprised by how much you can play some demos. I've played over 15 hours of the Inazuma 11 Victory Road demo on my Nintendo Switch, a demo that allows players to play online against other players. Quite extraordinary for, and I repeat, a free demo. Another demo that I really enjoyed is the Stanley Parable demo, a full-on mini-narrative adventure that introduces you to the concept of the game without being part of the game itself. It's a standalone game in all but name. Even if you played the original game already or the Ultra Deluxe, do give this demo a try. Browser games could also be a valid alternative if you're searching to play something quick. When I'm bored, I like to play Slow Roads, a driving game that runs entirely on browser. Nothing extraordinary, but something nice to pass time. Same goes for mobile games, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit out of the loop here, so I'll let you find what best suits you. The only game on my phone I play is Pokémon Sleep, and maybe play is not quite the right word. The last thing I want to address before moving to the second half of the video is emulation. It is pretty likely you have heard of people playing PlayStation or Nintendo games on their computers by using emulators, softwares that emulate all consoles, such as the original PlayStation, the N64, the Dreamcast, the GameCube, and so on. Now, let me be clear, I'm not a lawyer and thus I will not discuss the legal implications of emulation. That's a rabbit hole I will not dive into, but I do have to mention that emulators exist and are free to download. Many people do make the distinction between piracy and emulating a ROM file. The thought process goes something a little bit like this. If a game is no longer produced nor purchasable from first-party dealers, is it moral to download it by other means? I will not give you an answer to this question, but you can reach your own conclusion and decide. But that's enough free products we'll be getting today. Now let us move towards the second part of the discussion, gaming spending as little as possible. More specifically, what consoles to get and how to best use them. What is the cheapest platform to play video games in? Excluding mobile phones that all of you already have and we already addressed, I believe that there are two valid answers to this question: PC and retro consoles. Both options can be considered the cheapest if you know what you're doing. I think the cheapest option of the two in the long run is the computer. Now, the starting price of a good PC is often quite high when compared to a modern console, especially if you are planning to have the same power as the 9th generation. However, while the PC machine itself may be expensive, games on the PC are dirt cheap, if not straight up for free. When I discussed how to get free games earlier, most examples I brought up were computer related. The library of games I got on the Epic Games Store is larger than the library of games I have on my Switch. Now, quantity is not quality, that's for sure, but for someone that wishes to experience gaming on a budget, it makes more sense to collect various free games, some of which may be gems, than to spend $50 for a single AAA production. And you cannot mention gaming PC without mentioning Steam sales. Honestly, at times I felt guilty for how low I bought games released not even too long ago. There is a consensus in the PC world that prices drop double the rate quicker than their console counterparts, making it much easier to save up in the long run. Third-party shops also have very competitive prices, but be wary of which ones you visit. In this video, the only one I will praise is Humble Bundle, because not only it has amazing bundles of games, where you pay very little and get many titles, but it works in direct contact with the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders and Save the Children to donate all the surplus they generate. PC gaming in general can save you quite a bit of money in the long run, that's for sure, but what if the starting price of it is a limiting factor? Well, in that case, the second best option would be to buy a used old console. There might be a bit of a stigma of playing in older equipment, but honestly, you can get wonderful experiences for amazing prices. You can buy a used Xbox 360, a Nintendo 3DS, or even a used PlayStation 4 with a stack of games and be settled for years by spending less than 150 euros. Now, I do have an international audience, so I'm not going to list Italian deals and assume they can be found everywhere else in the world, but if you search in your local second-hand shop or online marketplaces, you are bound to find some good deals. And do not underestimate the fun and quality time these old consoles can provide. As I recently discussed in my Wii U video, playing after so many years was still an amazing experience, and the quality some of the games have in this old hardware is spectacular. I had and still have a blast booting up my Nintendo Wii U in 2024. The only two warnings I do have to give you by choosing this option are the maintenance and the lack of services. As you can imagine, it is not as easy to find an extra PlayStation 3 controller at your local GameStop, or someone that can repair the Wii U gamepad on the fly. Furthermore, some of these consoles no longer have online functionality, so no more eShops and online multiplayer. These drawbacks may mean nothing to some people, but could be deal breakers for others. One last thing before moving on, be careful between what is considered old and what is considered vintage. You may find cheap Xbox Ones, but I guarantee you will not find a cheap Pokemon DS game, because well, that's antique and thus artificially worth 3 times more as it should. There's kind of a sweet spot between old and not too old, so watch out for that. But what about current generation consoles? Is it possible to play them on a budget? The short answer is no, the PS4 is literally 800 euros, but there are a few things you can try out. Firstly, game consoles like the Xbox Series S or the Switch Lite are cheaper versions of the originals without a significant power downgrade. There are some drawbacks for these versions, for the Xbox the lack of a CD reader and for the Switch Lite the lack of the TV dock, but current games do run without problems. Buying games second-hand or digital sales is also a wise idea to save up a bit, and keep in mind that free-to-play games are also available here. Apart from that, there is not much you can do to save up with current consoles. I suppose stuff like the Xbox Game Pass and the PlayStation Plus, basically the gaming equivalents of Netflix, might help you to save up on costs in the short run, but 20 euros a month is still not what I define as budget gaming. Every hobby requires some degree of investment. Biking requires a bike, playing the guitar requires a guitar, and to play video games you need both a platform and games. Gaming in particular can be quite economically demanding, and more often than not I hear of people who want to get into gaming but either do not want or simply cannot make such an investment. I hope this video gives you a broader view and plenty of options to play video games on a budget. I do not often make this type of videos, but I felt I had to share my knowledge for the people who are seeking to enter the gaming world from many different backgrounds. If you made it this far, I wanted to thank you one-to-many budget gaming times for watching today's video. I hope you found today's video useful even if you are not on a very tight budget as the premise of the video assumed. What free games would you suggest I play? Let me know down in the comments below. I wish you all a wonderful day, and until next time, arrivederci!